Welcome to City Talk, a weekly conversation produced by the City of Waco to inform you about city events and projects. Each week, we'll bring you interesting topics with city staff and community leaders to highlight how Waco is an exciting place to live and work.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of City Talk. I am your host, Marcus Davilla. I'm joined today by my colleague, Susan Holt. Susan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Today's a little bit of a different format. Now, you and I just were on an episode of our TV version of Home is Where Our Heart Is. And either we did so well on that episode or the information was so good, they asked us to come back on and do virtually the same thing, just on the City Talk radio network. And I'm suspecting it's the latter, just of the information that we have to get out. But in all seriousness, that's why we're here. You know, the City of Waco is currently offering some incredible programs for the citizens of this great community.
Yeah, we have a lot going on.
We have a lot going on. That is an understatement. And but it's good news. We have a lot of funding available and some really terrific programs available for those who qualify. So we're going to jump into all of those things. But before we do that, let's begin a little bit about, our intros and your title and what brought you here and all the good stuff that is Susan Holt.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. So I work in the Community Services Department along with Marcus, and I'm currently serving as the loan coordinator. And I work with the programs, the Down Payment Assistance Program, the Home Rehabilitation Program, where we do home repairs, and then also the LIT program, which is Lettuce Preventable Program. And I'm also currently helping with the Small Business Recovery Program.
Okay, so as again, wearing many hats back there in Community Services Department, located here at City Hall, and helping process the loans for these programs. And so the first thing we're hearing is loans and programs. So let's just dive right into it. You mentioned a couple of them already in your role in these programs. So beginning with the Rehab Program, let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. So the Home Rehab Program is a program that allows up to $50,000 in home repair. That property does need to be located in the city of Waco. You do need to be paying property taxes to the city of Waco. You have to have owned the home at least 2 years. That needs to be your primary place of residence. You should be current on your property taxes, that kind of thing. There's an application that you fill out, some documentation that you need to supply with the application, and then we begin the application process, kind of seeing if you meet the pre-eligibility requirements as far as income, making sure that the property is in Waco, that kind of thing. And then we send it over to you guys for you guys to come out and take a look at the property.
Now, you mentioned some very key components of the rehab program with regards to the requirements or minimum requirements. Now, I think it's important for the viewers to know that, of course, with these federally funded programs, HUD puts these regulations and these requirements. And you mentioned some key ones. Again, the property has to be located within the City of Waco city limits. So, unfortunately, folks that are living in Belmead or living in Axtell, or these other areas that could be considered McLennan County, unfortunately, would not qualify.
Would not be eligible. And sometimes you'll even have an address that is technically Waco, like maybe 76704, 76705. So we would need to look at property records to see if your taxes are going to the city of Waco or city of Belmead, city of Lacey Lakeview, because if it's something other than the city of Waco, then that property is not eligible. Right.
And then also there was a huge article in the Waco Tribune-Herald not too long ago where it was discussing the new areas that FEMA has annexed and designated as a 100-year floodplain. That is also a requirement from HUD that a property...
Correct. It cannot be in a 100-year floodplain.
Right. And so staff will double check these FEMA maps to ensure that these properties are not located in.
Correct. That's one of the first things we do when we get an application is to make sure it meets that minimum requirement.
Yeah. And then you also mentioned a very other important requirement for this rehab program, as with all of the federal programs that we administer from HUD, is AMI. Talk to the viewers, our listeners, about what AMI means.
So AMI is adjusted median income. It's different for every area. HUD assigns it per area. So you have to be at 80% or below. So for one person right now, it's 35,000. Two people, it's 40,000, and adjust, and it changes every year. This year, normally the income amount increases. This year is probably the first time I've ever seen it lower.
Right.
So it decreased this year.
So that means then for viewers and listeners, if a family of two makes more than the AMI for that for their area, then they also would not qualify.
That is correct.
And again, for our viewers, the best way to find that out is just to go to the website. The chart is actually
The income
listed.
chart, yes, is on there.
And so if you're a family of six, for example, you cannot make over X amount. If you're a family of five, that amount is capped at X amount of dollars.
Correct. And that that amount is going by gross income. So not what you take home, but what you gross.
Right. And for the total household size. So
Right.
in summary, basically, again, these programs are targeted for low income families.
Low to
and
moderate income, correct.
what HUD deems as low to moderate income families. So that chart, again, is on our website. So now, again, just backtracking a little bit, I think you said up to $50,000 worth of rehab.
So it is up to $50,000 for rehab. It's up to $20,000 for the LIT program.
And let's dive into a little bit more of 50,000. I think it's important for viewers to understand that while it's up to, that doesn't necessarily guarantee an amount of 50,000.
That is correct. It is up to 50. It just depends on what we determine needs to be done to the home.
Right. And again, obviously, you and I work together on these programs and the rehab program. And, under the rehab program, $50,000 means that we're going to be able to cover cover just about any area of the home, which would include potentially a new roof, foundation work, flooring, electrical, and plumbing. When going to these homes, staff is always priority is always on the major components of the home and
Correct.
the areas that are constituting a danger to the safety and the health of the occupants. And so again, sounds like a really, really great program of rehab up to $50,000. Now we talked about a loan. So does that mean these homeowners are having to apply as they would at a bank? How does that work?
No, so it is considered a loan, and the paperwork would say a loan agreement. However, the majority of people do not repay. So the requirements for that is if you're 62 or over, you automatically have no repayment. Wow. If you're under 62, you would repay a portion, and that would be between 30 and 50% based on where your income falls on the AMI scale.
Wow. So essentially a non-payable or essentially a grant in the form of a loan that is not paid back.
Correct.
So just an incredible program for homeowners who live in the city limits. And again, for this program, for transparency, it's important to understand that our viewers know that this is for homeowners who live here. And of course, the main thing is there's also some other restrictions on the program. Talk a little bit about what that means, although you have a forgivable loan.
Yeah, so for a forgivable loan, if you don't have a repayment, how it works is we forgive a portion of the loan each year. So there will be a lien on it during that time, and that lien period is between 5 and 15 years, and that period is determined by how much we spend. So if it's under $15,000, then it's a 5-year lien. If it's between $15,000 and $40,000, it's a 10-year lien. If it's over 40, it's a 15-year lien. And so how it works, say if yours is a 10-year lien, then we will forgive 10% of that loan each year up until the lien period is up.
An equal amount during
An equal amount.
each
and
year.
we would forgive that as long as they meet the compliance requirements during the lien period. And those requirements include keeping current on your property taxes, maintaining home insurance, home insurance.
And obviously, that it's homeowner occupied.
And that's their primary place of residence.
Right,
Correct.
right. So again, just another key component. You might think, oh, well, it kind of goes without saying, but just again, for the sake of transparency, these programs obviously are not for investment purposes.
Right.
If we are able to provide assistance to a property, and those homeowners vacate, then that assistance is then due in full.
That is correct.
And so very, very important for viewers to understand that. So, again, for all those investors out there and things like that, these aren't the types of programs for them, but rather, again, low-income families who are needing
Yeah, and I know sometimes when we say there's going to be a lien, sometimes it'll freak a homeowner out a little bit. And it's not our intention to try to come and take your property at all.
Right.
It's just to kind of something that for our investment that we've made into the property, just just to have on there. So to back up.
Sure. So, we're protecting the investment that the
Correct.
city and the federal government is making to the property.
That is
and
correct.
Completely understandable. And again, most homeowners who are applying for these programs have probably grown up in these homes, or the property's been in their family for their entire life, so they're not planning on going anywhere anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's just really kind of a byproduct, a easy requirement, if you will, of the program, is just to ensure that those homeowners are staying put in that property and that the home remains homeowner occupied.
Yeah, and sometimes a family will have a question, if it's a older individual that's going to be part of the program, and what if something happens to that relative during the lien period, and we have a lien against the property during that time? Are we going to come take the home if something were to happen to that person? And that is not what we're going to do. It just someone else can move into the home. They just have to be either someone that inherited the property or a relative of someone that inherited property, and they have to meet our income guidelines.
Yeah, so very important for the listeners to know that obviously the city does not want the property. They're not
Correct.
looking to take the properties from the homeowners. So just a tremendous program, the Home Rehab Program. Now, when assessing these properties as far as the need that is needed for the home and with regard to the work and things like that, lead-based paint is a big issue. And, lead-based paint can be very dangerous, especially to young children under the age of 6.
Correct.
There's actually a city ordinance that states that, the lead-based paint must be addressed in areas where it's deteriorating in homes built pre-1978.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, the city has assistance for that as well. Let's talk a little bit about the LIP program.
Yeah, so LIP is our Lead is Preventable program, and it allows up to $20,000 to be spent on the home to help abate the lead that's in the property. And that can be in the form of paint, or it could be in the window sills on your floors. So that would be in addition. You can take a part of that property in addition to the home rehab. You can participate in both at the same time. So potentially you could do $50,000 in rehab and $20,000 in the LIP program.
Right. So again, just another extraordinary resource to help bring the home up to code, to help get the home in a much more livable condition.
Yeah.
And of course, overall, just making the property that much more sustainable for the family over
Especially
the long
if you have young
term.
children, you want it to be as safe as possible for them.
Absolutely. And, and unfortunately, most folks just don't understand the dangers of lead-based paint, and they don't realize how harmful this can be to small children. Of course, children, they're little people. And so, they're grabbing window sills and crawling on floors and touching things. And
things are going in their mouth. And yeah. And it can affect them. It can affect their speech. It can affect the developmental delay. It's a really great program to help, make your home safer for your children, grandchildren.
I think it's really important for viewers to understand that, if there are children that are under the age of 6 and they are showing signs of, late development, slower speech, and just, again, overall not developing, and they live in a home, or the children are frequenting a home, grandma's home, or a family member's home, and that home was built before 1978, then getting the child tested for elevated levels of lead in their blood could be a very, very good idea to find out if this is what's causing some of the neurological issues in the child. And so, again, very, very important to make sure that the homeowners are aware of this. If you're just now joining us, I'm Marcus Davilla. I'm the Housing Construction Supervisor for the City of Waco's Community Service Department. I'm here with Susan Holt, who is currently acting as our loan coordinator. We're discussing the rehab program that the city is currently offering and the Lead is Preventable program, the LIP program, to help abate lead-based paint in homes built pre-78. Now, we've talked about that pre-78 year, which is, of course, is a very important requirement for the LIP program, that the home has to be built before 1978. And then we also mentioned that, children under the age of 6 are most at risk of the dangers of lead-based paint, but that is also a requirement for the program as well.
Yeah, so a child underneath the age of 6 needs to either live there or visit there frequently. So it's a great program. Even if they don't live there, if they're visiting a grandparent frequently, it's still a great, it's a program that the grandparent could take part of.
Right. And again, we mentioned up to $20,000 in assistance for the LIP program. And again, that $20,000 can do things like lead abatement,
Correct.
and of course, new paint, interior, exterior paint, and also, if there's other areas of the home under the LIP program that we identified that need assistance, we can even tap into a little more money called our Healthy Homes funding, which allows an additional $5,000 for assistance.
Correct.
And so I think in summary for these programs, it's important for our viewers to hear the key bulletin points. There are requirements and there are restrictions that homeowners have to meet. But once we do that, then a homeowner could receive potentially up to $75,000 in assistance on their home.
That's
and
right.
again, that can mean anything from foundation work to electrical to plumbing, lead abatement. We've done windows and new flooring, things like that. And the incredible thing about this program is that there's funding available.
Yes, funding available for all the programs. And with the LIT program, it is always 100% forgivable. So there's never a repayment for the LIT program.
Never repayment for
and
the
it's
LIP
always a 5-year lien.
Always 5 years. So, and again, so now if there's of course, one of the big questions is, if a homeowner has a great need in their home and they need a lot of work done, and there's a 15-year lien, as we mentioned, under rehab, because it took $45,000. And then it was, so does that mean there's an additional 5-year lien?
No, they run concurrently. So you would just have the 15-year lien.
So a max of 15-year lien against a property for the assistance that the city can put into the property. And again, right now we're accepting applications. We're really trying to promote the programs and get the word out, and that there's a ton of funding available right now. So just an extraordinary program. I often comment how when we hear about programs that are providing assistance, more often than not, the response is, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're out of funding right now."
Yeah.
This is the exact opposite.
Exact opposite. We're trying to spend funding.
We're trying to spend funding because, we have it. And, obviously COVID has been a huge factor in the lives of every single person in the world, for that matter. And now, it kind of seems that, maybe it's keeping people away from applying for the programs and kind of slow the process down. But in any effect, there's money available. Now, we also talked about some of the other programs that we have. These are for homeowners, but what about someone who is not a homeowner and is thinking maybe it's time I put down some roots in this terrific town?
So for them, we have a program called the Down Payment Assistance Program, and that program allows up to $25,000 for down payment and closing cost assistance. The home that you're wanting to purchase does need to be in the city limits of Waco, of course. You still have to qualify with the same income limits that you do for rehab or LIP. And then we can help pay up to $25,000 to help you get your own home.
More money available.
More money available.
Now, of course, those that are listening and they're thinking, "Great, I've been wanting to buy a home, and now I just heard I can get $25,000 to purchase the home." That
Up to is the key word.
Right.
So how the program works is it fills in the gap between what they qualify for with their lender, and they are free to use the lender of their choice. They do need to be pre-qualified with the mortgage lender with their application. So it fills the gap of what the lender approved them for and what they need to buy the house that they want. So for an example, if they were buying a $150,000 home, the lender approves them for $140,000. There's a $10,000 gap there, and we can fill in that gap. So it's not an automatic 25. HUD only allows us to fill in the gap of what's needed to be able to purchase the property.
Terrific. And so filling in that gap, which of course that gap can oftentimes mean the difference between someone being able to purchase the home or not.
Correct.
$10,000, $5,000, $15,000, whatever the case may be, that's a lot of money to try to just come up with when you weren't expecting it. Or let's just say, you thought that, you were going to purchase this particular house and that fell through, and now the next house is available, but it's a little bit higher than what you originally were wanting or able to spend. And this is where the down payment assistance program could come in.
Correct.
Again, as with the other programs, there are some restrictions and requirements for down payment. Same AMI
Correct, same AMI. They do have to meet certain ratios. So there's a front end ratio, which is what it would incur with their payment, interest, taxes, and insurance. That has to be between 23 and 30% of their gross income. It can't exceed 30. And then there's the back end ratio that can't exceed 45% of their income, and that would include their payment, their house payment, plus any monthly debts that they have. Right. And so that couldn't be more than 45% of their gross income.
Okay, so again, many of the same terms as if you're just purchasing a home through a traditional bank. Correct.
Or mortgage company. Your lender's going to look at those kind of ratios as well. Now, their ratios may differ from ours. Mm-hmm. So a thing to remember is just because you qualified for a mortgage with your lender, our qualifications may be a little bit different than what your lender was looking for. Right. So it doesn't automatically guarantee you for down payment assistance, but we are going to be looking along the same lines as what your lender's looking at.
Right. So, and of course, that's going to include your credit,
yes,
debt to income ratio, things like that.
Right.
And so, again, important and very important for the viewers and listeners to know, and that there's assistance available, but again, with restrictions. And then again, also, the property can't be in a 100-year floodplain. And again, for any investors that are out there thinking, oh, I'll just add to my portfolio and use the down payment assistance.
It does have to be your primary residence that you're going to be living in.
Primary residence with the same lien restrictions that you have to maintain this as your homestead.
So you still have to maintain insurance on the home. You still have to maintain your taxes on the home, and you still have to be living in that property as your primary residence.
Now, for our viewers that are out there listening and they're thinking, oh, I've been thinking about purchasing a home for a while now, and this could be it. Am I really ready for home ownership? Of course, there's some myths and there's some facts versus when it comes to home ownership and whether or not that, someone is really ready to make a step as big as an investment as home ownership is. Talk a little bit about knowing when and when is a good time to purchase a home and when is maybe not the best time to purchase a home.
So you want to make sure that it's not going to exceed the 45% of your income, that it's affordable. I know the housing market with the way it is right now, everything is really expensive. So our program, it's a really great time to utilize it because it's gonna make a huge difference in what you probably would be able to afford. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the myths is that this is because you already have a qualification for a mortgage, that this is a quick process and we can just give you the $25,000 right away. So it is a little bit of a process. So I think my suggestion would be to just make sure that you're patient and that you're not running out and putting an offer on a home at the time that you're applying or before you apply with us.
Now, when purchasing a home, the city takes steps when utilizing the down payment assistance to help ensure that the homeowners are, in fact, ready for home ownership. And we do that by our home buyers education class. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's offered through Grassroots. Mm-hmm. And so it's a home buyers education and financial literacy. They're required to take both of those courses through them in order to participate in our program.
Right. And again, this is just going to help ensure that we're setting up the clients for success.
Yeah, we don't want to set them up for failure and to, not be able to afford it and then they end up losing the home. So that's definitely not what we're wanting to do.
Yeah. Susan, this is a ton of great information. And as we begin to wind up our time here, I think it's just important for our viewers to know that there is assistance out there. There is help available, whether or not you're in a home already looking to purchase a home. In summary, the thing that our viewers need to know is that there's help that they could potentially qualify for.
That's correct.
And so for someone who's listening to this, again, on either end of that spectrum, and they're saying, you know what, I want to get more information. I want to find out what is this all about. What's a viewer's first step?
The first step would be to call our office and request an application. And we're happy to mail that to you. You can come by and pick it up. We can email it to you. We are going to be going paperless October 1st, so all applications will be done online. And for those folks that don't have internet access or aren't familiar with how to use a computer, we'll be taking those applications by phone where someone in our office will enter the application into our system while they're talking to you on the phone, and then we will get your documentation to go along with it after that. So that's going to be a great help for a lot of our
It really makes it convenient and helpful for the citizens. And really, honestly, what that means is there's no excuse for someone who thinks that they need help or knows that they need help to call our office, to visit our website, and just to inquire as to, if they would qualify.
Yeah, because we're happy to go over the eligibility requirements, any questions you may have about the application, any documents that we're needing, anything that we can to walk you through the application process for any of the programs. We're happy to do.
Susan, thanks so much for joining us. I know that this was a lot of information for our viewers, and we covered a lot of information in a short amount of time. But again, for anyone who has questions, please call our office at 750-5656. You can just talk to the receptionist that answers the phone, and that's going to be their first step into getting help. So again, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for all that you do at the city.
Thank you.
And thanks for our viewers for being with us. We'll see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed City Talk, a production of the City of Waco. Catch this program on local radio stations on Sunday mornings at 6:30 a.m. Find the podcast on your favorite podcast streaming service by searching City of Waco, or view it online at wccc.tv.